Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to season 9 of Gather for Her. I'm Tina O. I'm your moderator, and I'm grateful to be connecting with all of you here from Nequalaquam, also known as Bowen Island, BC, Canada, on the soil originally named as Turtle Island and now known as the continent of North America. I'm grateful to rest my head, to play and to co-create on the traditional, unceded, and ancestral territories, land, and home to the Squamish people. Gather for Her invites you to be part of our co-created conversation with global leaders, changemakers, and social impactors. And Gather for Her is brought to you by Powerhouse and produced by Regen Media. At Powerhouse, we walk beside leaders to amplify their change work as they walk their path of whole leadership, guided by relational leadership practices and Indigenous wisdom. Our impact media producer is Regen Media, who invites us to take the power of media into our own hands by supporting stories that heal and regenerate, uplift, and transform. And we're here every 2 weeks here on live on LinkedIn. And you're always invited to come on into our conversation. And these conversations are organic and emergent in nature. And as such, we're going to jump into some juicy bits that actually really deserve more time to unpack them. So we always follow up these conversations with a private interactive wisdom circle held in our community of practice called the Leader Path, where we gather at what we call a virtual fire. And I'll tell you more about that later. I am going to pop in a few times in this conversation to introduce you to some of the different things we have available for leaders like you who are ready to elevate and decolonize your leadership practices by walking an integrated path of whole relational leadership guided by Indigenous wisdom. You should know that this is a live conversation, which means use the chat here on LinkedIn. And we would love for you to introduce yourself. And however you identify today, are you a listener? Are you a viewer? Are you in the audience seat? Where are you in your relationship to Powerhouse? Say hello and let us know where you're connecting in from. We invite you to offer an acknowledgement of gratitude for the lands in which you rest, play, and grow. And that might be really new for you, and that's okay. Relational leadership is being in relationship with yourself, with each other, and the world at large. And it begins with awareness, followed by practice. And practice doesn't mean doing it right all the time. It means practicing. And then we carry forward that learning for future generations with an integrated knowing from our lived experience. That's my way of saying, be awkward here. Come as you are. Learn here with us. And that way we can all keep our hearts soft and grow and co-create this world we're living into together. So that's enough about me and us. Let's begin. I'm going to pass to my sisters in change making and let them introduce themselves. And then we'll introduce our special guest today for you, which is Val Georgescu. And she's a beautiful gift to us in the house. We're in a project partnership with Val, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to pass to you, Sharon, and to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tina, and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. I am coming to you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Snuneymuxw and the Snuneymuxw First Nations of the Coast Salish people here on beautiful Vancouver Island. I am Métis Cree from Treaty 6 territory and specifically from Edmonton. And I've been on the island for more than 20 years, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Don't tell my prairie family. I am a co-host of Gather for Her, and I'm also an Amplify coach and a mother and an entrepreneur and a student. And I am very excited to be here, and I'll pass it on to Shar.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning and welcome to another co-created conversation in Gather for Her. I'm Charlene Sinjenko, and I'm the founder of Powerhouse. I'm exceptionally curious about leadership and what it really means to live and lead in a different way. I'm coming to you this morning from the beautiful Sunshine Coast, which is the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Squamish First Nation, and I'm really grateful. My husband and I and my stepdaughter have lived here since 2004, and I'm really excited to introduce you to a friend, a colleague, and a fellow, I'm going to say, really community focused, people first, family first, community focused leader that I've had the pleasure to get to know over the years of living here. Val Georgescu. I'm just going to read a little bit of Val's bio, and then I'll probably ad lib slightly before handing it over to her to finish off introducing herself. So, professionally speaking, formally speaking, Valerie is an associate financial advisor at Sunshine Coast Investment Insurance Services. She's a mutual fund investment specialist with Cooperators Financial Investment Services. So, a little bit about Val. She loves to get to know folks' personal stories. And from those stories, she can understand more about the intricate lives that her clients, residents across the Sunshine Coast and beyond, what their needs are, what brings them the greatest joy. And in doing so, coming to that understanding and helping them and being of service is where she really finds her greatest joy. It's through understanding these stories that she can help to highlight and prioritize their goals. And so it's interesting to read this because it sounds like so familiar, walking beside people and learning to understand them. So she says, your solutions may end up similar, but the way they get there is always unique to you. And she strives to provide safe, judgment-free space to learn and plan for your future and for our futures together, as well as the now. A little bit about Cooperators. I feel like I should just, in case you're not aware of them, I'm just going to let you know that they are they're one of Canada's leading financial services cooperatives, which is quite a relational business model, I might add. And they do a number of great things for folks, from different types of insurance and wealth products, advice, services, and I think we'll probably get into a whole much more, but really all with the goal of providing families and communities with more financial strength and security. There's so much more, Val, but I'd really love to hand it over to you. How would you like to introduce yourself, and how would you like people to know a little bit more about you this morning? And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and so much for having me here today. I am very grateful to be joining you from the Squamish Nations. I live, work, and play both in the Sechelt and Squamish Nations area, having my home in Sechelt, but having my office in Gibson's Squamish Nation here. So I have been with Cooperators for about 6 years now. My history is I got my start in credit unions in starting as a teller, being a banker, personal banking services and that sort of thing. Starting in Ontario, where I met my husband, and we made the decision to expand our horizons and move away from our families all the way to BC to help career progression and build a life for ourselves that we weren't able to do as young professionals in Toronto. And so we spent 5 years living in Prince Rupert, where I continued to do personal banking, and I made the shift into general insurance there. And 6 years ago, when we moved to the Sunshine Coast, as we're looking to find our footing and where am I going to land career-wise, I found Cooperators, which was a really perfect fit for myself because it brought my financial background and my insurance background together. And it's where I became a leader. So it's a little tidbit I'll put in here. As I remember in my initial interview to join Cooperators, I applied for just a general insurance agent position. And I was asked in this interview, why is this the position that you applied for? And I responded with, well, it's the posting that I found, but to be honest, I think I have a lot more to offer. And I don't think I really understood in that moment what I had to offer, but they let me know about the leadership position that was available here. And I just remember chuckling to my husband after, being like, they want me to be the manager there. And I couldn't quite believe it. And now 6 years later, I can't imagine doing anything else.
I love that, Val. And I've had the pleasure of spending some time on the phone with you, getting to know you, just having a conversation to say, hey, who are you anyway? You know, and it was just such a rich relational conversation. And so our first question for you is really that, like, what does relational leadership mean to you? And I mean, I could say what I think it is about you because I just so loved that conversation. But yeah, what comes up for you around that?
Lots of things come up. And it really was such a relational conversation that we had. It was really, really a joy. People are people. Doesn't matter what you're doing, where you are, or anything like that. We are really all just human beings. And it's just remembering that you are a person and I am a person, and relational leadership is keeping that remembrance at the forefront. It's remembering that in a corporate type of environment, you have happy staff, you're going to have everybody is going to have an easier life. Your staff are happy in the work that they're doing, in the people that they're with, in the way that they're treated. They are going to have a stronger level of respect. They're going to have a level of respect for you as a leader, for their colleagues and their coworkers, as well as for the work that they're doing and the people that they're serving.
Thank you for that. I wonder, Shar, if you might jump in, because you've been in a long walk with Val in working both, like knowing each other as individuals, people on the coast, and then also professionally. And I just wonder what is arriving for you around relational leadership and your work with cooperators.
Well, I'm curious where this takes you, Val, but what I will say is my husband and I also moved to the Sunshine Coast from a bigger city in 2004. And I think, it was that sense of home, that sense of community that I'm not going to say always, only is apparent in a rural community, but it certainly is what attracted me. I'm a small town girl from way back. But really, it is about community. And in a small town, relational leadership in, rural BC and rural Canada, across Turtle Island, it is, I think I've always just craved that sense of we are a village. And you need to work together in a small community to make it work. And that's one of the things that I've always appreciated about my relationship with Val, through the cooperators, through the Sunshine Coast Credit Union. It's like the demonstration of we're people first. They know me as a person first and foremost. And I'm just curious where that takes you, just from kind of the size of our community. And we are kind of, I'm going to say, just to bring the conversation there, we're kind of forced into, like, we better make it work, because if you want to live here in this beautiful rural setting, you really do need to work on relationships and work together to make it work for your family and for your community.
Yeah, we are, I think, so incredibly fortunate in our community that we have here. Our community is, I think, quite strong and filled with so many multi-talented people, multifaceted people. And I found that in the community that we have here, we have a lot of strengths in a lot of different areas. And at the end of the day, this is where I live. this is my home, and I want my home to be a really good place, and anything that I can do to make that better. I want to get to know the people that are here and see what areas need improvement, what is something within my realm and my abilities that I can contribute to help to do that. And I'm fortunate enough to work with an organization that I can do that in so many different ways. And so as an example of that is the collaboration that we are working on together through cooperators, Indigenous Lift Collective, Powerhouse, Regen Media, Sunshine Coast Credit Union. I come to you here as a people leader, a financial advisor. Like my day to day isn't, it's not that it's not in the community, it's all in the community and other different ways. But I also am with an organization that gives me the allowance and the freedom to collaborate. Back in May, Shar invited me to the table of 20 with Powerhouse, and it was a wonderful experience. And from there, we just kind of got to talking and spitballing on like, what is something that we could do together? Is there more there? Is there a collaboration that we could have? And I let her know that cooperators, we have an actual special funding program for nonprofit organizations. And so we kind of started that spitball rolling a little bit further, a little bit of brainstorming, and brought in Indigenous Lift Collective, which is a nonprofit organization. And with Vanessa from Indigenous Lift Collective, the three of us just started to say, okay, well, what are our strengths? What is it that this organization does and this organization does and our organization does? How can we bring this together and create a project that will better our community? And from that, we're now at a place that we're starting to launch an educational cohort program for Indigenous women and non-binary individuals in an effort of economic reconciliation to bring startup businesses through a business learning cohort. Let's give you the skills and the tools that you need if you have your business idea or you're at the beginning of your business, so that you have the ability to have a strong business, have a strong start, be successful, and be seen. It's going to come with education. It's coming with micro grants so that you have a little bit of financial to help you to start. And then Regen Media is going to create a documentary to share the stories of these businesses that we're choosing. So we can take these individuals and learn about their passions on what brought them to their business idea. And then we can highlight that and share that and create more visibility for them. This is like a little bit not quite relational leadership, but it's that community aspect of it, of that ability to be able to say, I can do this, I can do that. What's within the parameters that I can do, that I have the allowance? Well, I have cooperators at my fingertips. What resources do they have that I can leverage to use this? What resources do you have that we can leverage to do this and bring it together for the betterment of our community? I think that's like a little bit on community there.
And I want to say that is relational leadership. It's the modeling of what relational leadership can do. I just really appreciate the way that you invited our viewers and listeners today to learn about what does that actually look like. We gathered, and then a little thread came through of what we each do, and then we followed that thread, and how can we work together so that this project can happen that affects beautiful change. Like, just gorgeous. I want to pass to you, Sharon, about what's alive for you. So many of the conversations we have are about, right now you're really, emotional intelligence is like the thing that's like seems to be right in front of you and doing and working in circles. Just where are you in this conversation right now?
Thanks, Tina, and thank you, Val, for being such a staunch advocate for community. There's so many pieces to what you just said. And yes, I have to agree with Tina that is relational leadership. Totally. I mean, you're working with the community. You are following through on something that I feel that you're very passionate about. So and that Yeah, I applaud you for that. I was actually supposed to give a workshop at the Lift First Steps, and so I had a compromising workshop to do, so I can't do it, but I'm excited to learn how that all goes. So just I applaud you for that, and I had something, but it has left me, and I should have wrote it down. It'll come back. Thanks.
I have a little piece that I'd love to. There's two things that I'd love to dive into, and then we'll go back. We'll go back to it. But I think it's all a part of our conversation topic today. But one thing that Val, said was she looked around for what was within her reach. And I just really want to highlight that, because relational leadership is, I come with what's in my reach, the gifts that I have, what's possible for me. You come with what's in your reach, and together we can reach further. I know we all know that, but I think it's worth repeating again and again and again and again, because that is true allyship. That is true relational leadership in action. The other piece that I just want to highlight, because I think it's so timely, is, both Sharon and I are extremely passionate about providing the right foundational supports for Indigenous women and Indigenous female and female identifying business owners, entrepreneurs. I think that it's so fascinating to me to be a part of making sure that these foundational cohorts happen that have a holistic approach. And I'll tie it into what's relevant. I was listening to a podcast at the gym this morning from the US, and it was about venture capital finance. And the latest thing to be happening right now is the development of founder support programs, because the stats are in that founders are burned out, absolutely burned out, because they don't have the foundational growth support program with all the quadrants of the medicine wheel at the table, and they don't have that allyship. And so they're starting off on their journey with a very different set of intentions. So I just want to really echo and mirror that back to all of you, because if we start from that place of grounded, relational, for me, what is everything I need to be balanced and do this for the long haul? What is everything you need? So that's what's coming up for me this morning around the relevance of this topic and how we're taking it in action.
Val, I want to pull on the name of cooperators. And I'm like, funny that. I wonder if you might want to speak a little bit so the question that we have in the script is, how are you bringing relational leadership into your leadership? And I don't want to answer it for you, but I just think it's really interesting that the where you landed is with a company called Cooperators. And you want to run with that?
Sure. Well, before I do that, I just want to touch on a little bit on what Shar was just saying there, is like that protection of yourself to be able to come as your whole self and be balanced. I hadn't really considered that in what I was thinking about for this conversation, but that might actually be the number one most important. It's like, what's the old adage? You can't put somebody else when you're on fire. You can't put out somebody else's fire if you're on fire or something like that. But understanding and knowing your own boundaries and taking care of yourself, because if you're not whole and you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And so being okay with putting limitations in certain areas, if it's going to be better for the long run, understanding that you can't do everything yourself, but that allyship that you were talking about, like that is so key in there. And I really appreciate that. Cooperators and cooperatives, I feel like it's in my blood because I mentioned credit unions. I have a history of credit unions and working in credit unions. And I remember when I was 8 years old and my mom started working for a credit union, and I went to the bank and I shut down my Royal Bank Fat Cat account and opened my credit union account from there. And that's when I was introduced to the concept of a cooperative, which is a democratic model of business ownership. And so what that is that we're here for the people. We're owned by the people. You know, in a credit union, that's represented by you having your bank account with them. You have a member share that represents your ownership and an invested interest in that company. Cooperators is a little bit different in the way that our cooperative works. You know, if you have an insurance policy with us or an investment with us, that does not make you a member owner of this democratically owned organization. But our cooperative model is that several other cooperative organizations across the country represent our member ownership. And so that democratically owned and operated cooperators group of companies then houses a ton of other companies, including Cooperators Financial Investment Services, Cooperators General Insurance Company, Cooperators Life Insurance Company. All those different services that you can get under one roof here are actually different organizations that are then democratically owned by cooperatives. And so I guess that's a level of permission to give that relational leadership, is that you're working for an organization that understands that and supports that and encourages that as well.
I remember what I was trying to spit out before. So Tina mentioned emotional intelligence, and so that's been huge on my mind these days because I'm just finishing up an MBA, and my specialization is in leadership. And so the last class I had yesterday is leading with emotional intelligence. And so for me, I feel that relational leadership is very much it deals with emotional intelligence, and in particular, I feel intuition, maybe in your case, plays a big part in what you're how you are leading. So, for example, you have a long history with Powerhouse and Regen, and a personal friendship with Shar, who happens to be Indigenous, and you know, her organizations are Indigenous led, and then now you have this partnership with Indigenous Lift, and so I guess I'm just curious why.
That's a good question. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Not to put you on the spot, but just, you know,
no,
like
no, that's
what
fantastic.
is the draw for you because you are a staunch supporter. So what is the draw for you? What do you, you know, and what does intuition have to do with that?
Yeah, so important to understand and be able to vocalize your why, you know. And it actually brings me back to the conversation Tina and I were chatting, and it's if an opportunity presents itself to me in some way, shape, or form, I'll always explore it. I'll start with the why not and not the why, you know, and explore it and see where it takes me. So there's definitely an element of that in there, but I wouldn't call that really the why. The why is this important? Why is this something that I create passion around or want to be a part of? Is also kind of ties into community. Like this is my home and this is what's important. And through education and learning about our history and our country and locally as well, that's where it's the why not? Why wouldn't I, you know, understand as you learn piece by piece, you know, we're piecing these reconciliation parts together one piece at a time as we're learning. And as a clearly white colonized individual that comes here, that's part of my responsibility as a very baseline level of respect is why wouldn't I implement a land acknowledgement somewhere? Like that's the bare minimum level of respect that I can give someone. So if I see an opportunity to build on that, to be able to help in an effort towards reconciliation, I don't know why I wouldn't do that. So it's like the why and the why not are kind of in tandem there. And I think that should filter to all facets of life or other areas of organizations that you're a part of. I'm part of the Self-Employed Women's Network. And we, at this, at the crux of the change of June 2020, before the, graves were found or anything like that, but we, started to realize that we needed to go on a journey like that and facilitated an educational workshop that we could invite other nonprofit organizations to in things like how do I build policy into my organization and that kind of thing. And that started because a question started to be asked, membership wanted to say, let's have a conversation about this, let's talk about it. What can I do? I can provide a safe and judgment-free space that we can build that and kind of realize, okay, a little bit more is needed. So why wouldn't I take that to the next step of that level of understanding?
Thank you, Val. And what I really appreciate is I never mentioned the word reconciliation, and you did. You brought it up, and so to me that's huge. And so thank you. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was just curious, and I appreciate your response.
Awesome. I think we might have some new viewers because we are live on LinkedIn. So I just want to reset the room just for a second and welcome whoever might be joining us. So if you're just finding us here on LinkedIn or wherever you're listening, this is Gather for Her. And it's a co-created conversation with global leaders, change makers, and social impactors, brought to you by Powerhouse and produced by Regen Media. And we are live here every 2 weeks. And you've probably just noticed we have juicy conversations. We have conversations that are not going to get all unpacked here because they are complex. We live in complex times. So after each of these conversations, you are invited to join us for a private interactive wisdom circle on our community of practice, which is called the Leader Path. And the Leader Path is designed for whole conscious leaders, bridging Western leadership practices with relational ways of leading guided by Indigenous wisdom. You're invited here, and you can find out more at powerhouse.com. And again, if you're new, this is a live conversation. So we would encourage you to come on, introduce yourself in the chat. We will follow up with you and say, hey, welcome. Glad that you were able to be here. Let's go back to our guest, Val Georgescu from the Cooperators. And who's got something alive for them right now? We're talking about leadership and reconciliation and whys and why nots. Shar, anything for you?
I think so. Like I always like to share a little bit of knowledge as I'm learning it. And so I think what I'd like to share, and apologies for looking down for a minute, but I just wanted to pull it up to make sure. I think the braid of Powerhouse certainly knows because I've shared it, but I think part of relational leadership and steps towards reconciliation is really trying to understand what relational even means, because we're really trying to build relations again. And the knowledge keeper and former chief that I've been studying with has really encouraged me to read the memorial to Sir Wilfrid Laurier from 1910 that was written by 3 chiefs of my home nation across the Shuswap Valley. And, it's so interesting back in 1910 when they realized that people were arriving in their home, people that were arriving that didn't look like them. They actually wrote out an invitation of how we might live together. And it's kind of crazy because it's, it's all those years ago. But really, if you read it right through, those three chiefs were suggesting that we can live together as brothers. We can hold each other up to be even greater. If you read that memorial from 1910, everything we're talking about now has been talked about before. We're just returning to it now because that didn't happen. And so part of reconciliation and healing is rebuilding the relationships that unfortunately didn't happen at that time. And so it is through these, working partnerships, these initiatives, and what we're able to do because of them. It's not only the impact of them, it's the process that we get to experience through them. That's why I'm so about partnerships. It's because it's the process. People come to me and they're like, well, what should we do? Well, don't do anything by yourself. Like, do things in relation with, in partnership with, learn from, unlearn from. And I'm really grateful at a local level, local and regional level, that we're able to not only make a powerful impact, but actually enjoy a process through conversations, through emails, through learning. I work differently than you work. And it's that those are the ways that we heal, right? And it's not that it wasn't laid out for us.
I love that you just said that's how we heal. And that hasn't come up in this conversation yet. However, when you introduced Val Shar, you introduced Val as and the cooperators as putting people first. And Val, I wonder if you might speak to that, because when I look at the change maker you are, to me, that's like one of the key pieces. Like, that's how you move change forward, is you actually put people first. I just wonder if you can speak to that a bit for us.
Yeah. You have to put people first. Like, you have to. I think there's no other option and no other choice. I don't believe that you will be successful if you don't. It's like, you do it because it's the right thing to do, but you also just quite frankly do it because you won't be successful if you don't either. If I am talking to somebody and I sell them a life insurance policy and it's not actually the right thing for them, I mean, let's forget about the fact that would be non-compliant. But that person is eventually going to figure that out, and they're not going to be very happy about that. And that's going to create reputational damage. But that's also not why I'm here. Like, I'm here to understand people and help find the right solutions for them. And by finding the right solutions for them and putting those people first, I mean, I'm bettering their lives, and I'm also helping my business because they're going to have a good experience. They're going to tell somebody about having that good experience. Like, it's all interconnected. Like, there's no other way to do it. Morally, I wouldn't feel right doing it any other way anyways. But to me, it makes sense in literally every single way possible. If I want to be able to have a good conscience at the end of the day, I'm obviously going to do what's right for the person in front of me. I would rather have somebody sit across from me and better understand what their needs are and tell them, I'd love to help you out, but I'm not the right fit for you because of X, Y, and Z. And I've done that before, and I'll do that again because I'm not going to be serving them well or correctly if I do something that's not within their own comfort level, or that takes them outside of a budget that they're okay with working with, or any number of different things. When I first actually remember in my first training with cooperators, they put you through the different training programs, onboarding and all that. And they actually say, when they're telling you about learn about the organization and corporation and all that, it's people before profits is what they say. And that's because making the right decision for the person in front of you is something that's supported by the organization, but it also just, it makes sense in every way, shape, and form.
Val, I just wish other people and everybody here, I wish, regardless of what their vocation is. I wish everybody would have that same, just, can you imagine what the world would be like if, like, so we've got the carpenter, and we've got the baker, we've got everybody has leadership capabilities, and has that ability to put people before profit, put other people first, and this world would be so much better if we thought that way.
Well, I think it connects to the SDG goals, right? The 2030 SD, like sustainability. When we put people first, we're sustainable. And I mean, I love, one of our sisters in Powerhouse, Hillary Sampson, is about to go get her PhD in reimagining capitalism. And I suspect, I don't know, because I'm not Hillary, but that people before profit is actually redefining profit. Would you say, Valerie, are we onto something?
Yeah, like I really believe, and I hope it doesn't come off the wrong way, but like I am running a business as well. Like it makes both business sense and people sense. I mean, how many times are we seeing comments on community Facebook groups? Oh, don't go to this person, they screwed me over, or something like that. And then on the next page, you'll see, oh, I had a really excellent experience with this, or somebody asking for any recommendations in this area. I mean, what you put out there is, I believe, will cycle back in some way, shape, or form.
And even from a business, a very, very much with a business lens on, it is far easier and less expensive to keep a client than to gain a new client. There's stats to back that up. And so as we move from transactional to relational, it's that ripple of relational, not only leadership, but it's a ripple of referrals, new introductions. So many people have asked me over the years, well, so who does your marketing? It's like, honestly, to be really honest with you, my best opportunities have come because of people who believe in me. And this project is another case in point of that, right? Like that is it's not only about, I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's not only about the cost of a new client, it's about the depth of the relationships in your business, you feel that in the reputation and brand of your business, right? You can feel the difference in depth, and that's becoming more and more and more important.
Yeah. What comes up for me there is the teaching of 7 generational thinking, right? When you use the word depth, I was like, whew, right. And also want to name, it ain't the old boys club of multi-generations. Well, we've always done it this way. It's not that. It's the depth of relationship, of being seen, known, and allowed in your wholeness to do good work together. Makes me think about the table of 20. So the table of 20, Val, was our first time doing that. And which goes to your point, the why not question. So it was like an exploration. What happens when we bring 20 people in the room together from different sectors? What would happen? And this is what happened. And it makes me wonder, and Shar and I talked about this, that maybe every year we do a powerhouse table of 20. But what if the intention was to co-create projects that contribute to economic reconciliation? What if? I don't know. Like,
Tina, just for the audience's sake, maybe you could just quickly explain what the table of 20 is.
Yeah, it was a gathering that Powerhouse had last year at like a beta. What happens when we bring 20 industry leaders into the room? And there was a process that we walked through with Christina Benti, and that illuminated what hierarchical structures can look like, and how we can default to powerful and powerless in that structure. And while that was the doing of the event, the byproduct, as Shar often says, is that magic happens at the periphery. So we needed a reason to gather, and we did something together, and that was magic too. But the actual magic is this collective that we've put together, or rather that happened. I don't even want to say that we put it together, right? It's like it happened, and now a contribution is being made in a relational way for, economic reconciliation. Oh, we're getting some hands up. We're nearing the end of our conversation, and we have one last question for you, Val, which is, from your changemaker perspective, what do you think is the most important thing to bring to the table in relational leadership? Oh, she just popped out. Oh,
was it something you said?
She's going to clamber back in. Why don't we just sing her praises for a little bit about how awesome it is to work with Val, and maybe even a little bit about how this collective is working right now. Shard, I mean, you were really that's how it came to you. Do you want to speak a little bit about how this happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the learnings from it so far, definitely, it's very relational. There's literally years behind this project of relation building, trust building, understanding, and now it's, the right people at the right time, at the right opportunity to make it happen. And it always takes champions. Every partnership takes champions that can come to the table and reach for the resources they have, whether that's people, a network, financial resources, tools. It's what is around me that I can contribute to this partnership. I think that the pieces that I'm most excited about are definitely that it does allow, it is a cohort infused through Indigenous wisdom, brought to the practice of entrepreneurship. And I've always said that, to any entrepreneur that will listen to me, your business is simply a vehicle that you get to use to drive through the experience you most want to have in the world for as long as you want to drive it. And to really think about business and entrepreneurship as a vehicle to experience life is exciting to me. So this cohort is the opportunity to just make sure that everything is grounded and balanced, and for putting the entrepreneur at the center and their care for their growth and support in all areas of their business and their life, not just profit, but I want to see those entrepreneurs 10 years from now flourishing and healthy.
And you're back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. My phone overheated.
Oh no! It was hot in here.
It was hot.
Whew, whew. That's awesome. How's your phone now? Can we carry on? Are you good? Should we?
I think we can give it a try.
Okay, and then we're close to wrapping up anyway. So let's. It's like speed dating.
Did you hear my answer?
No, we're ready for your answer. Yeah.
Awesome. So, for what's the most important thing to practice as a change maker and a relational leader, is I really want to bring it back to that people are people. And when you're meeting people, no matter what the circumstances are, is having that openness and empathy and grace, and bringing that emotional intelligence into it. With like a sprinkle of understanding, like we are all coming to whatever it is we're doing, this conversation, our lives, or whatever brings us together from a unique place, and having an awareness with you that, the person I'm speaking to might not be coming from that same place. And so trying to gather that understanding so you're communicating in a way that is resonating them and being able to understand if it's not, to be open and open to learn, open to pivot, and empathy and grace, I think, too.
Thank you for that. People first. Yeah, I always say you start in the first 5 minutes. Everything you need to say happens in the first 5 minutes, and the rest of the hour you're unpacking it. People first. We always close Gather for Her with what we're leaving with. And so I'm gonna, anybody got something alive for them? Like, whew, yes, this has impacted me. Who's got impacted me? Who wants to start?
I will. So, yes, empathy and grace. Thank you for that. The emotional intelligence involved in relational leadership is huge, and you just nailed it with two very important characteristics that, to me, embody relational leadership. And what I'm taking that away, but I'm also taking away, why not? Why not? Thank you. It's been awesome.
I love that. Why not? Yeah, me too. I will add to that where this conversation, where I want to go from here. So it's been a bit of a catalyst, right? I believe that the height of relational leadership is when we fully recognize that our relations are a mirror, and that's all they are. You mirror me, I mirror you. And a big part of our healing happens through relations, because you're mirroring back to me, whether it's something that I love about you or something that drives me crazy. You're mirroring back to me the areas that I still need to work on, that I'm strong, and I love all parts of them. But that's the beauty of relationships, and they are our mirror to guide us through this lifetime.
Thanks, Shar. Val, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be in relationship with you, conversation with you, to be received by you, to be listened to by you, and to listen to you. And you have such a gift of holding that listening space in a really fun, light, joyful way. So thank you. I'm leaving with the importance of a table of 20, actually. My thinking, my brain went ting, ting. This is why we're going to do this every year with Powerhouse. This is it. It's economic reconciliation. And for the next little while, let's gather some leaders in the space and see what magic happens at the periphery. How do we leverage and work together? And that's what I'm leaving with. That's my go-to. Go build that, Overbury. Go do that. That's where I am. Thank you. Val, how about you? What are you leaving with today?
I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm really honored to be here and participate in this. My takeaway is to remember and have confidence in myself and the work that I'm doing, and that it's all the highest good is coming as it comes. And sometimes when we get into these holistic, emotionally intelligent conversations, the conversation can flow naturally and really well. And remembering to take our conversation here and apply it in the day-to-day, because it's great to talk about this. And I do believe that I implement a lot of this a lot of the time, but it's certainly not all the time. And it's certainly easy to forget and fall into habits. So it's a great reminder for myself to take all your advice and hear all the things that you're saying, and take my own advice too sometimes.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. We're going to close this now with some gratitude to all the hands at our back. And Val, if your phone overheats and you drop out, it's okay. We're at the end. We're at the end now. I want to thank all of you, all of our listeners, our audience, our community, for joining us here on Gather for Her. This is our co-created conversation with global leaders, change makers, and social impactors. I want you to know this conversation has been recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel. And again, as a podcast renamed as The How for Her, which you can find on Spotify and all the other places that you listen. Gather for Her is hosted by Powerhouse, where we walk beside leaders to amplify their change work as they walk their path of whole leadership, guided by relational leadership practices and Indigenous wisdom. And many thanks to our impact media producer and sister company, Regen Media, who reminds us that we can take the power of media into our own hands when we support stories that heal, regenerate, uplift, and transform. And thank you to the hands at our back, Powerhouse and Regen's digital storytellers, Zoe Gray, Madeline Archibald, and Willow Smith. And thank you to my co-hosts, our sisters in change, you just do such an amazing job of always keeping your heart open and your ears open. The Braid of Powerhouse, Charlene Sanjenko, Christina Benti, Sharon Marshall, and me, Tina Overbury. And to you, our listeners, our community of change makers, leaders, and social impactors, thanks for walking with us in co-creation of the world that we're living into together. If you're new to this, you're like, what just happened? We want you to know you are welcome here every week on Gather for Her. And there's always a place for you in our community of practice called the Leader Path in Powerhouse. You can find out more at powerhouse.com. And just want to wish you all love this week in your change work that you do. And we will see you all again here on Gather in a couple weeks on LinkedIn or on the path and Leader Path. All right, everybody, have a great Changemaker week. Thank you for being here.